Hi there, welcome to this 30-minute Pilates session. So we're going to be doing this on the floor, so it's all floor based for 30 minutes. Obviously work at your own level. If you do have any injuries or any limitations in movement, please do be careful. Generally tend to work within discomfort but not pain. So if you do get any pain, either reduce your range of movement in that exercise or just stop. And I will try and give alternatives where needed. Okay, so if you want to make your way down onto your back, we're going to start on our back and we're going to mobilise through the body. You may want a cushion for your head, particularly if you've got any neck issues. Then it is better to have something underneath your head, and it just puts you into a better alignment through your spine. You don't want anything that's too bulky. So making sure that if your head is on the floor rather than on a cushion or anything, that you're not tipping your head back. So firstly, thinking about your alignment, we want to make sure we've got that slight gap between the chin and the chest. So just imagine that you've got a peach between your chin and your chest. You don't want to squash it, you don't want to let it roll away. And then let your arms just rest by your side and relax your shoulders. So allow the shoulders to move towards the floor. So the shoulder blades are down. The feet are on the floor with the knees pointing up towards the ceiling. And we're going to do those pelvic tilts. So similar to like we do standing, we're going to rock the pelvis. So just taking those pelvic tilts is a really nice way as well to just loosen up through your lumbar spine. Particularly our lumbar spine can get quite stiff. And if it's first thing you do in the morning, then it always tends to be a little bit tighter in the morning. So this is a nice way to loosen it up. But it also just makes you find where you should be in that neutral alignment. So imagine that you're moving down, so your lower back is pressing into the floor, your tailbone is coming away from the floor, and then your tailbone presses into the floor and your lower back lifts away from the floor. So we call this one a posterior tilt when we're pressing the back into the floor, and then we call this an anterior tilt when we lift our back away from the floor. Some people have an overarch of their back naturally, so they will tend to be quite overarched. So we're trying to find the mid-ground. We're trying to find where our pelvis should sort of sit. So if you do that a couple more times, and then find the centre in between those two tilts. And that is where we have a natural arch in our lower back. It's not too much, and it's not too little that our back is pushing into the floor. So when you've found that, your hips should be level. And the best way to check that you're in neutral alignment is to make a little triangle with your fingers and thumbs. Place that triangle down onto your belly, so your belly button is in the middle of that triangle, and then have a little look to check that your fingers and your thumbs are level. So if they're level, there you're in neutral. If you've got slightly tilted, so maybe your thumbs are down and your fingers are up, you're in a posterior tilt. And if your fingers are down and your thumbs are too high, you're overarching the back. So either of those can put a little bit too much pressure on your back. So we're trying to find the middle where the fingers and the thumbs are level. So once you've found that, pop your arms by your side, but turn your palms inwards. So your fingers are pointing, your little fingers are pointing down to the floor and your thumbs are pointing up. So I want you to just take the shoulders up towards your ears and then slide the hands down through, so you're coming down the sides of your body and your shoulders are moving away. And just do that a few times. And try to keep your shoulder blades on the floor without lifting your head away from the floor. So this is like shoulder shrugs that we do when we're standing. And we're just switching on into our back, but we're also just mobilising through the shoulders, through our neck. So we're going to do one more. And then as you slide away, keep away. So keep those fingers reaching down. Keep that gap between your shoulders and your ears. And then with your head, just very gently roll your head from side to side. And allow your head just to fall naturally rather than to force it all the way down. And you might find one side maybe a little bit stiffer than the other. So you may go a little bit further on one side to the other. And this is just giving us mobility into our neck, into that cervical spine. So we're just getting movement through the spine first. So we'll just do one more to each side, and then we'll bring it back to the centre. And as we come back to the centre, we're just going to very gently lift the hips and the lower back away from the floor and then just place back down into neutral. So this is called a hip hitch or a hip extension. It's not a bridge exercise, it's just a little bit of movement, mobility movement, working into this area, into this core area. So again, it loosens up our back, works into the hips, little stretch into the hip flexors, and press into those feet equally. And just do a couple more lifts, keep those hips level, keep the ribs down, keep that rib hip connection, and come back to neutral as you come back down. So once you come back down, we're going to take the opposite arm and leg and we're going to slide away. So just allow your heels to slide across the floor if possible and your arms to reach back. Thumbs towards the floor. Doesn't matter if they don't reach the floor, because again, you might have tight shoulder or an injured shoulder and that arm may not necessarily go all the way back. So again, don't force it. So we're getting movement into the shoulders, we're getting movement into the hips. And again, I want you to think about neutral, switching on through your core, and again, keep those ribs down. And then we'll just do one more each side. So one more each side. And then we'll bring it back to the center. So feet back down, arms back down. So from here, take your right foot, reach it up, give me a little circle with that foot. So just work into your ankle, circle the other way, and then gently release that foot down and lift your left, and circle your left foot. So we're just getting mobility into the ankles, into the feet, circle the other way, and release back down. So this time, I want you to let one knee fall out. Come back, let the other knee fall out. So just alternate the legs. So it's just one knee falling out and the other one stays up. And I want you to think about keeping your hips nice and still. So this is just getting movement into your hips and around your bottom. So we're keeping that pelvis stable. So we want to stabilize the pelvis and just allow the knees just to fall out. And we're just going to do one more each leg. So one more each leg. And then we'll bring it back to the top. Okay, so from there, switching on into your core. Your arms are by your side. So I want you to remember to stay in neutral and I want you to draw that belly button in. And then what we're going to do is we're going to again take the palms in, fingers, little fingers down. Take a breath in and rise up with your upper body. Let your fingers slide down the legs. Draw the belly button down. Keep the ribs in. Switch on into your core. And then just release back down. And just do that again 5 times. So you lift away. Reach the fingers. Maybe the fingers will come off the floor. And then come back down. So what I want you to do is maintain that rib hip connection. I want you to draw the belly button down, don't let it rise up. And I want you to keep that neutral alignment through your upper spine. So you're keeping that same distance between the chin and the chest. We're not pulling on the neck. And we're not trying to round the shoulders. So we're still nice and wide across the collarbones. And the shoulders are still away from the ears. And we're nice and light with the feet. So try not to press down with your legs. Try and keep light on the legs. And then one more. And then release. And we should feel that in our abdominals. So this time we're going to take the right leg away from the floor. So if you're lifting one leg, what we're going to do with that leg is we're going to circle. We're going to drop the knee out, push the leg forwards, and then come back in. So we're moving. So we're working into the hip, but again, we're stabilizing the pelvis and we're switching on into the abdominals and the obliques. So as you're moving that leg, if you place your fingers and just press a little bit into your oblique muscles, so just around the sides of your abdomen, you should feel those muscles switching on. You might have to have a little poke around, but you should feel those muscles switching on. And again, what I don't want you to do is let the ribs come up. So keep the ribs down, keep the hips level so you're not rolling. You're just allowing the knee to fall out, and that's working into those deep core stabilizer muscles. Really good one for your lower abs and your oblique muscles. We're going to do one more, and then we're going to swap it over. So we'll place that foot down, lift up the left, so come into that tabletop position, drop the knee out to the side, slide away and come back in. So remember, as you're moving your leg, you want to check that your hips stay level, they don't roll, that your ribs stay down, we're keeping that rib-hip connection, we're switching on into the core, and again we can check that, particularly on this side, as we're moving this leg, that our fingers find those muscles, and you should feel those muscles switch on as you move your leg out and forwards. And then again, got a little bit of a creak in that hip, and we're going to do one more. Obviously you're going to work these hip flexors, so you may feel it in the hip flexors as well. So release that foot down. Now, walking your feet a little bit closer towards your bottom. Remove your pillow if you have one under your head. So for this particular exercise, our head should always be on the floor, not on a cushion. And our arms are by our side. And we're going to come into bridge. So we're going to do some bridge lifts. We're just going to do 4 bridge lifts. So heel your bottom, your lower back, your mid back, and a little part of your upper back away from the floor. Press those hips nice and high. Keep your ribs down. Keep your hips level. And make sure you switch on into your glutes before you release back down. Feet should be pressing down, knees in line with your hips and equal through the feet. And as we come down, we squeeze the bottom still and we release down 1 vertebrae at a time. We draw that belly button down a little way, keep that switch on into the abs. We release. We then press the back into the floor, lift the bottom away from the floor, peel your back away from the floor, press those hips up, switch on into glutes. If you're not too sure, you will be able to feel them. You will know if they're switched on or if they're relaxed. So generally, if they're fairly relaxed, your hips tend to sink more. As you push your hips up and squeeze your knees a little bit, you'll feel it in there. Release back down. Another good way to do it is to slide a cushion, or quite a chunky cushion, otherwise a yoga block. Slide that under, and as you press up, if you squeeze your block, that means you have to switch those on, otherwise your block would just fall away from your legs if your bottom wasn't switching on. So that's a good way to work the glutes, is to put something between your legs. So I've lost count, so let's do another one. Doesn't matter if we do more. So remember that squeeze. So I want to really switch on into the glutes. Remember that the stronger these glutes are, the better it is for our back. Our glutes support our back, so it helps our back stay supported and strong if our glutes are strong. And then as you come back down, you may want to just draw your knees in towards your chest to have a little hug of those legs. Now we're going to roll onto our side, continuing with glutes. We're going to do a little bit for glute medius muscle. So this muscle particularly is a really good one to strengthen, because that's the one we use the most, and that's the one that we use for getting out the car, walking up the stairs, most sort of actions that we do. So you're either going to lay on a pillow with your arm out in front, or you're going to lay out on your arm and you can possibly have a pillow between. And I want you to have your knees in front, ideally your hip and heel are in line. And then I want you to take your top leg away from your bottom leg. Okay, so this is a slightly different exercise to the climb exercise. What I want you to do is think about your knee staying still, and then push your foot up and down. Okay, so move your foot more than your knee. Just work into our glute. Okay, so bottom leg is staying still, and then the lower part of our leg is the one that's moving the most. So we're trying to lift it higher than the knee and then drop it down a little bit lower than the knee. We're going to do about 8 of those, and then you're going to do the same with your knee moving. So you come back in line, you keep the foot still, you lift the knee up and down. So move the knee up and down. So it's the knee that's leading, and then concentrate that lower part of your leg doesn't start to move around, so it just follows the knee. And again, lift and lower. Keep this top hip nice and still. Again, give me about 8, and don't let this hip roll. So we're keeping it still. Okay, when you've done 8, we're going to come down, and then we're going to lift both feet away from the floor. Now we're going to keep both feet together, and we're going to lift and lower the top leg. So 8 lifts, just that top leg moving, the feet are staying still and staying high. So again, we're switching on into the glutes. So you're going to start to hopefully feel it around this area of your bottom, and it is working the muscles around the hip and the outer thigh. So remember to switch on still into your core, keep your ribs in, and keep this top hip nice and still. When you've done 8 of those, we're going to come back down. Relax the feet down. We're going to move over to our other side. So come up and swap it over. So we're going to do exactly the same on the other side. So let's check in the time. Okay. So from here, again, you want your knees slightly in front of your body, and ideally you want your hip and heel in line. This top hip at the top, so keep that nice and still. And then we're going to lift the top leg away from the bottom leg. So the bottom leg isn't doing anything, just keeping that nice and still. So remember, it's now your lower leg and foot that leads. So you lift it up, you lower it down. We lift, we lower, about 8 times. Again, it doesn't matter if you do more. So ideally the knee is staying quite still, and it's the lower leg that is doing the moving. Okay, but again, we're working into our glutes. So these exercises just work slightly different muscles in the glutes. We're mainly focusing on the glute medius muscle, but you will get a bit of work into the hip flexor, the muscles around the hip, the outer thigh, and a different part of your glute as well. And when you've done 8 of those, you come back in line, and then it's your knee that leads. So your knee lifts up and down. And again, keep that control. So this one's a little bit harder. So remember, that top hip doesn't want to be rolling around. So we want to keep the top hip still. So we keep the pelvis stable. And that way then we're working where we want to be working in, glutes, but also core. So these deep core stabilizer muscles as well. And again, when you've done 8, leading with the knee, we're then going to rest the leg back down for a moment. We're going to lift up both legs, and we're going to keep the feet still, and we're going to lift and lower that top leg. Okay, so 8 times. So lift and lower. So again, top hip stays still. Don't let the bottom leg move. Keep the feet together, and just give me 8 of those without rolling. So again, it's just that leg that's moving, and the feet are staying high. So we're really switching on into the glutes. Hopefully you should be feeling that now on that side. And again, keep that control, keep those ribs in, draw that belly button in. So again, when you've done 8 of those, and my counting is rubbish today, so ignore me, because I haven't a clue how many I've done. Just relax your feet back down. Now we're going to come onto our front. So you want to lay on your front. You can, if you wish to have a cushion under your forehead, you can rest your forehead on a cushion rather than squashing your face on the floor. And we want to go wide with the arms. So we make like a W-shaped position. Elbows are down, hands are in front, legs relaxed, so keep your lower body relaxed, and we're just going to lift the upper body. So start by floating your face and your chest away from the floor, and that might be as far as you go. Or lift your elbows, press into your hands, extend your arms and lift your ribs away from the floor. Now you see my pelvis stays on the floor and then I lower back down. So I come down, ribs, elbows, chest and head. And I'm going to do that 5 more times. So I float my face and chest away from the floor first, then I add that extra lift. So that lift, it doesn't have to be as high. So just remember, if you suffer with any lower back problems and your back doesn't like extension, which is lifting this way, then you might find that is enough. So without lifting your elbows away from the floor, it might be enough just lifting your head and your chest. So remember to keep your legs relaxed, keep your pelvis down, keep your shoulders away from your ears so you're not coming into this hunched position as you come up. You want to open out the chest. Think of that chest travelling forwards and that little switch on into your upper back. So as if your shoulder blades are moving towards each other as you come up. The inhale to lift and the exhale as you lower back down. And again, when you've done your 6, just come down, have a little rest. So just rest down. And then we're going to place the hands under the shoulders. So we're going to come up and come into all 4s. So just moving in your knees, checking that your hands are under your shoulders. I'm just double checking that I am still recording because I always panic that it's not working. So we want knees under hips, wrists under shoulders, okay? So from this position, make sure you found your neutral alignment. So in any of the positions that we are in, we generally tend to make sure we're neutral first. So ideally, if you need to do those little tilts just to find it, then find it from there. Neutral alignment. We want to switch on into the core. We want to keep those ribs in. And then we want to keep the hips level. Shoulders level. And we're going to move the opposite arm and leg out. We're going to do 5 each side. So just take your time. Opposite arm to leg. Move away. Now keep that neutral spine. So in Pilates, we do everything quite slowly because we want to make sure that we are working the stabilizer muscles and we're switching on those core stabilizer muscles all the time. So just concentrate that as you're moving your arm and your leg away, that you're still in neutral, that you're still engaging through your abdominals, keeping those ribs in, and we're coming back into the same place. When we bring the hands back in, we're coming back under the shoulders and the knees are coming back under the hips. When we've done those, take a little sit back. Feel free to let the elbows come down. You might want to give your fingers and your wrists a little bit of movement as well. Okay, and from there, pop your hands back down and come back into all 4s. Now, from your all 4s position, walk your hands further forwards. And then from there, these are called cat dips. So there is an easier option, which I'll show you in a moment. So if you want to watch first, the first thing we do is we move the bottom back towards our heels, but our hands stay there. And then we travel forwards, but as we travel forwards, we're trying to stay low to the floor. So we move the elbows out, we move the chest close to the floor, and then we push ourselves up, draw the belly button in as if we're going into that little cat stretch, and then we move back again to start again. So you travel forwards, push up, tuck in, push back. So let's see if we can do about 8. Now, as you travel forwards, if you stay higher, then it makes it easier. So the lower you go as you travel forwards, the harder it is. So if you struggle, or particularly if you've got any shoulder issues, that might be really difficult to stay low. So you might want to stay that a little bit higher to make it easier on the shoulders. And if that's still too much, your alternative is just to rock. So it's a rock back and then rock forward. So your arms are actually staying straight in this position and you're just rocking forwards and back. So we're still switching on into the core, but we're maybe not working as much into the shoulders. So remember, just work at your own level. Give me 8. So 8 of those. Pushing up, drawing in. Hands always staying in the same place. So our hands don't slide forwards or back. Our knees stay in the same position as well. So we're just moving through. And then obviously when you've done your 8, you may want to sit back, stretch it out. You might want to bring the forearms down, give those hands and wrists a little bit again. A shake out movement. Okay. And then from there, you can come back into all fours. But if your wrists are getting tired, you might want to come down onto your forearms. So you can be on your forearms or your hands, doesn't really matter, because we're keeping the upper body still and we're moving the legs. So making sure that when we're in that all fours position, we're back in neutral, and then we're lifting one leg away from the floor, but we're going to keep that leg bent and we're going to flex the foot. Now ideally as that leg lifts, don't let that hip lift. So keep your hips level, stay in neutral. That way we're going to switch on the glutes and we're going to pulse with that leg. So again, flex the foot and imagine that the sole of the foot is hitting the ceiling, you're pressing the ceiling. And again, the hip isn't lifting any higher. So if we was just moving the hip, then it's not really working our bottom, it's more the hip and our back. So we want to keep the pelvis stable, switch on the core, keep the back supported, and we want to work the buttock muscles. So we're just moving the leg, we're not moving anything else. And as soon as you start to do that, you should feel that quite quickly working into your bottom. So it will get quite tiring. So let's see if we can keep going for another 10 seconds. Keep flexing that foot, pressing up, keep the leg bent. Make sure the whole of the leg is moving, but again, not the hip. And then bring the knee in. So hopefully you'll have felt that in your bottom. So now, set back up, lift up the other leg, flex the foot, check that the hips are still level, we're not letting that hip lift higher. And again, remember we're moving the leg, but not the hip. So it's the leg that's moving, the hip is staying still. So we want to feel it working into our bottom, not our hip, not our back. So we stay neutral, we keep drawing that belly button in, keep those ribs in, keep flexing that foot. Squeeze your bottom as you pulse, keep pulsing. So again, hopefully, you should be feeling it now in your bottom. Keep going for the last 10 seconds. Don't forget to breathe. Good work. And come in. Oh, I can feel that. Sit back, have a little stretch out. Good work. Okay, so from there, come back into all fours and just very gently, and think this is more lower back than upper back. So just tuck the tailbone under and just gently flex into that lower part of your spine, and then just send the tailbone up towards the sky. And do that a few times. And try and make it come more from your lower back than your upper back. So there's actually not much movement going on in my upper back. It's a different exercise to our like cat-cow exercise. So if we do that one, we use the whole of our back. So it's the whole of our back moving. So this one is slightly different. This is just getting movement more into your lumbar spine rather than the whole of your spine. We're going to do one more of each, and then again we want to find neutral. When we find neutral, we're going to come to sitting. So we're going to come into a seated position. If you have any back issues, or generally you just prefer to sit on something, make sure that your back is supported if you need support. So concentrate on sitting up nice and tall, sliding your legs away, and then take a breath in to reach up and exhale to reach forward, to take a stretch into those hamstrings and release the hands back in. So again, reach up and reach forwards. Now we're going to do that 4 more times. Don't lean back, so sit up tall, lengthen that spine, and then again reach. And keep reaching that a little bit further if you can. On that last one, big reach. And release. Give your legs a little shake out and bring in your feet. Sit up nice and tall. Take your right hand behind your hip, take your left hand, just bring it across to your thigh and just take a little twist over to your right side. Come back to the centre, take it across and a little twist over to your left side. And come back. Take your right hand to the floor, take your left arm, reach it up and reach it over, but keep lengthening that arm. And make sure this right shoulder stays relaxed, it doesn't pull up to your ear. So a little side stretch, keep your knees in the centre. And come back, take that hand down to the floor, take a reach up and a reach over with your right arm. Keep your left shoulder down, keep your knees in the centre, chest open and come back. Take the hands onto the front of the knees. If you sat on something, make sure you shuffle to the front of it. And then just again, a little bit like your tuck under in all fours. Tuck under. And then lift the chest. And then again, one more time, tuck under, chin to chest. And sit back up nice and tall. Take a little stretch forwards, hands towards your feet, head between your knees. Let the hands slide up the legs. So sit up nice and tall, take your right ear towards your right shoulder, shoulders stay down, and then come back. And left ear to left shoulder, and come back. Now gently move that chin back a little way, keep the length in the back of your neck. Turn your head to the right side, and come back. Turn your head to the left, and come back. Take a breath in, and a breath out. And again, breath in through your nose, breath out through your mouth. Well done. Give yourself a clap. Well done, everyone. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed that. Any feedback, welcome. And I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.